Determining the equation of a quadratic function or determining the equation of a parabola. Let's look at how to determine the equation of a parabola. So we have a question here that we just want to quickly look at. The following is the graph of f of x is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. R is the y-intercept. The equation, the straight line through R and T represents the graph of g of x is equal to negative 2x plus d. Determine the value of d and determine the equation of f in the form f of x is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. How do you answer this kind of question? So number 1.1, I normally advise that when you are doing maths, try as far as possible to learn the ideas behind the calculation, to generalize it in such a way that if you are given a new situation or a new question, you can still apply the knowledge to answer whatever is required. Now, number 1.1, if an equation is given but it's incomplete, we can find the missing value by substituting the coordinates that are on that graph. So in this case, the graph of G is passing through 6, 0. The graph of G is passing through 6, 0. So to determine the value of D, we simply have to substitute 6, 0 into the equation of G and then work out the value of D. The first one goes into X and the second one goes into Y. So we have substituted Y with 0 and X with 6. And then that will help us calculate the value of D. D is equal to 12. Then number 1.2 is my main focus of this lesson. It is to discuss how to determine the equation of a parabola if you are given the x-intercepts. So I need to remind you that there are different methods that can be applied. In this case, we are applying a method that works when given the coordinates of the x-intercepts and the coordinates of one other point. So if you are given such information, we use the equation y is equal to a factor of x minus x1 factor of x minus x2. In this equation, x1 and x2 are the x-intercepts that are given. So my x-intercept here, the one on the right is 6. So that means I can put 6 in place of x1 and the other one is negative 2. I put negative 2 in place of x2. Then once I do that substitution, I can go ahead and work out my answer. Now, I have got A that I need to calculate. A is calculated using the coordinates of one other point that is on the graph. Remember, I said this method works when given the x-intercepts and one other coordinate which is there. So in our case, we have the y-intercept point R. The y-intercept, even though it's not given directly here, we know that from the equation of the straight line, D is the y-intercept of the line, and we have calculated that one to be 12. It means the coordinates of R are 0 and 12. So those are the coordinates that we are going to use to determine the value of A in the parabola equation. So if we put 0 and negative 12, it means y is equal to 12 and x is equal to 0. So put 0 in place of x and 12 in place of y and we calculate the value of a. So if we do that, we get a is equal to 1. When we get the value of a, you come back here. Now you rewrite this equation, but remove this a and replace it with negative 1 because a is equal to negative 1. Then you simplify the equation to simplest form. So what I do here, I keep this negative 1 out. Then these brackets, you use the FOIL method to simplify them. So multiply x times x x times 2, 6 minus 6 times x minus 6 times 2. Then you work the answer out. After that, then you multiply by this negative which is outside. So if we do that, then we get y is equal to negative x squared plus 4x plus 12. This is the equation of the parabola. So quickly, the equation of a parabola can be determined by using the equation y is equal to a factor of x minus x1 factor of x minus x2, where x1 and x2 are the x-intercepts of the parabola. Question number 1.3. Determine the equation of the straight line h that is perpendicular to G and passes through the point R. Now, interesting here. Now, this is some ideas from paper 2, analytical geometry. So we know that in analytical geometry, if two lines are perpendicular to each other, two lines that are perpendicular to each other, now the gradient of one line multiplied by the gradient of another line, the answer is always equal to -1. So this is the idea of parallel and perpendicular lines. It goes together with the parallel lines. Parallel lines have equal gradients, but perpendicular lines, the product of their gradients is -1. That is the idea that we are going to use to answer this question. Now let's proceed. From the information provided, the equation of G is y is equal to -2x plus 12. Now from that equation, we know that y is equal to mx plus c. This is the general form of a linear equation. Y is equal to mx plus c, and in this equation, m is the gradient of that equation, which means the equation of G, the gradient is -2. The gradient of G is -2. Now, if the gradient of G is -2, it follows that the gradient of the line, which is perpendicular to G, is 1/2, such that if you multiply 2 times 1/2, if you multiply 2 multiplied by 1/2, my 2 is negative, so it's -2 times 1/2. The answer is equal to -1. That is the idea of perpendicular lines. Once we get the gradient of the line, we can find the equation using y is equal to mx plus c. So in place of m, we put the new gradient that we have. That will give us y is equal to half x plus c. C is the y-intercept, and the y-intercept is point R, which is equal to 12. If that point was not given from our previous calculations, then we're simply going to calculate it by substitution. And that completes our answer for this question. So be reminded that in paper 1, you can also be visited by parallel lines and perpendicular lines from analytical geometry as part of functions. Then what else have we discussed in this short video? It is the fact that when given the x-intercepts and the coordinates of one point, you can find the equation of the graph using those particular points. That will be for now. How to determine the equation of a quadratic graph. There are a number of methods that are applicable in solving this type of a problem. It will all depend on what information is provided to you. In this particular section, we discussed how to find the equation if you are given the x-intercepts. Right, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for subscribing and for encouraging your friends and brothers and sisters to do the same thing. Let's meet again when we discuss more mathematics concepts and see how we can help each other get better results in the exams that we are going to write. Till then, thank you very much.